currently July and I need to apply to schools this upcoming fall. How many pieces do I have in my portfolio? Like 3. I don't have any like actual art. I have only animations and I only have like 2 that I would even consider putting in there. And typically you want your portfolio to be 20 pieces or 15 to 20 pieces or something like that. Today we're working on something. It's going to be a library, right? Because I need to do looping animations. I want to make it so it's like whew, like I want the perspective to go from here to the middle just to give it like some spice. And I'm going to do this painting and then I'm going to put it into Adobe Illustrator and then I'm going to break it up into like things so that there's like perspective actually. And then I'm probably going to edit it a little bit in Photoshop after I paint it, and then I'm going to put it into Illustrator and then I'm going to make my character and then I'm make my character animation, and I want it to be a person studying, right? I need to fix my posture. Basically, it's going to be like a dingy library, but I want it to be like a whimsical dingy library, you know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be like blues mostly, but I want it to be really high contrast. So I want there to be like windows lining and everything, and I want there to be like columns. I'm not gonna like record the entire thing. I'm gonna take breaks in between because I am gonna be watching like TV shows and movies while I do this because oh my gosh, I just got HBO Max. As someone who has only ever had Netflix their whole life, holy crap, there is so much on HBO Max. Like, I was actually like flabbergasted. Also, this was a painting before. I found it at a yard sale, and I was like, is this painting important? Like, if I buy it, can I paint over it? And they were like, no, it's the ugliest painting I've ever gotten. I was like, okay, great. So, yeah, basically, I covered it with gesso once, but I was like, I'm just gonna add more layers. So, like, I'm not gonna waste white paint trying to cover up a bad painting when I'm just gonna paint over it. So, like, like curve at the end, maybe? So I got curve at the end. Probably not. Like here. They always say that you're supposed to spend like as long as you can in like the sketching phase. And while I think that that's true for like some mediums like animation, because like once you've made your character and you're going into it, you really can't change it after that point. But I feel like for painting, like I sketch with paint and acrylic paint is so forgiving. I don't really care if I don't like the perspective yet. I think that part there will just make the bookshelf. That'll be the new line for a column. This is floor look. Okay, let's do floor like this. Is that too high to be the floor? I think the floor like here. Yeah. Is that even visible? I feel like I want the ceiling to go like down so you can see like movement. So we'll have the ceiling kind of feel like that. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so two windows, column, ceiling at the back, but it's gonna go down like this. I'm gonna try and make the colors kind of muddy so that it looks a little bit more harmonious. First column, window, second column. And this is another bookshelf. This will make it feel more like, yes. I feel like this makes so much more sense in my head, but I feel like looking at this, people are like, but this makes a lot of sense to me actually. Now that we've done this, we're gonna block in some large colors. Overall, I use pretty like cheap stuff if I'm being honest. Like, I don't know, I don't really believe in the whole like, use this, it'll make your painting so much better. Like, the only thing that's gonna make your paintings better is you. Like, you can use some of the shittiest stuff and still make good art. When I get into a hobby, just use what you have before you go and buy like super expensive shit. Like, because it's not gonna make anything better. It's honestly just gonna put more pressure on you to make better things. But if you use shit stuff when you first start, then you can be like, oh well, I don't have the best materials. Like, I'm not that might be why I'm not doing well. But like, if you have the best materials and you're still making shit art, then it just makes you feel bad. Do I really want the desk to be that long? I feel like I do. I think I'm just being silly. So yeah, that's how our ceiling's gonna go. And go down and down. To like that. Window 1. Where our ceiling is. That'll be another 1 and then 2. So then that means that there's gonna be a column right here. I want it to be kind of like, that's kind of the vibe I want it to give. Not like a, scary library. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And my main goal right now for sketching is I just need to cover the canvas. Alright, this is what I got done for day 1. I have work in 15 minutes, so I need to sprint out of here, but yeah, I made a total mess. And I'll be back tomorrow to work on highlights. Alright. It's the next day, and I have basically nothing to report. We're back, is all I can say, which honestly I'm proud of because typically I paint for one day and then I leave it for 5 months, and then randomly out of nowhere I'll get like super inspired and then I'll just finish it in a day. It's not a great process, so that's why I'm trying to change it. I got home from work like an hour and a half ago and I went to the gym. I showered and then I made chips and then, well, I didn't make the chips, I put them in a bowl. I feel like there's always this assumption with artists that they all work at night because that's just like when they think better. But I think it's actually because like most artists, they're not just like artists, they're also like moms and dads and workers and this is always when a new project gets like scary, is when you start adding new elements. Hey, I'm done with black and white, time to add the paint. Like, it's so like nerve-wracking. This obviously doesn't look good right now, but it will look good. Just gotta believe. I actually really appreciate being on camera because it actually kind of helps me see what I'm doing a little bit better, because the camera kind of like blurs it just a little, or like I can see it from further away. That's like the most frequent tip that you hear from artists, is like, oh, well, if your painting looks wrong when you're doing it, you gotta step further back and look at it. Thank you for that tip. It actually does help, I'm not even lying. This is a lot more yellow than I wanted to use. When I don't use some of my paint, but like it's only a little bit of it, I feel so bad because I feel like that paint feels like it's not worthy anymore. Because it's like, oh, I'm just gonna dry up and I never get to become something pretty. And it makes me feel sad, and so then I end up using it, and then I make my art worse so that I can use paint. Okay, I'm back to painting a day later. And I would be lying if I said I knew like where I wanted to go from here. I don't. I mean, like, I know what I want to do, but I don't know how I want to go about doing it. We're just gonna play around, I guess. And if it looks like shit, it looks like shit. I do know that I need to move the perspective over a bit, which is going to be a total pain in the ass because this side here is smaller than this over here. Because you can see I can only fit one window on this side, but there's two on this side. It's about an hour and a half later. I've actually changed quite a bit, but you probably can't tell. So I'm gonna explain really quick. So instead of making this go straight back, I like curved the end of this, so it's gonna be like a little round thingamajig. I added more highlights in the roof so it opens up the space, and I started highlighting stuff around here. That's why this side is more detailed than this side. So, and then I added a column like post right here, which I'm gonna do on, I can't point when I'm not looking at it. I'm gonna do that over here as well. This side looks like way more like close, and this side looks like further back. So I need to make this side look like this side. That's my goal right now. I don't know if I'm getting sick or not. I kind of feel sick, but then again, I always feel kind of sick. I do this thing. I will like convince myself that I'm faking being sick. And it's actually the weirdest thing because I am like consistently sick. Like, I myself am an unwell person. Like, I'm constantly sick and I'm constantly injured. And I will convince myself that I am faking it. And like, people will ask me like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I feel better. And then I think to myself, I probably feel better because I was faking it. And like, I had no reason to fake it. And like, I have missed out on like genuinely like amazing things because I was sick, and then I convinced myself that I was faking it. During the fall, I had a sinus infection for like 3 months, but I convinced myself that I didn't, so I never went to the doctors until like October because I was like having trouble breathing. And so I like finally went to the doctors. They said to me, "You have had a sinus infection so long that it's infecting your lungs." And that was, you'd think that someone would hear that and think, oh, this is a wake up call. Like, I need to pay more attention to myself. No, I took it as this doctor doesn't know what he's talking about, and I'm actually just a narcissist. So then I needed medication for it, right? So I take some medication. I can't breathe. what's going on? I'm allergic to the medication. And so I get spontaneous blistering and bruising and hives all over my body. And I ended up missing out on my like homecoming game I was really excited for, right? I convinced myself that I faked my allergic reaction talking to my mom, and I was like, I feel like I can still cheer tonight. Like I can still do the homecoming game. And she was like, you literally have blisters all over you. But anyways, yeah, so I think I'm getting sick right now, but I'm also like simultaneously convincing myself that I'm like lying. What could I talk about? Oh, I could talk about shows I like. Okay, so something I've noticed about myself, I hate plot driven shows. Like, ugh, I like some of them, but like, I would so much rather watch a show that's like 90% atmosphere and then like 10% plot. Like, I hate shows where it's like literally like the action and the plot is like it. Like, shows like The Walking Dead, Breaking Bad. I can't stand them because they're just so like plotty. I love a show that is like 90% character dynamics and atmosphere, and the people that are in it are what makes it the show, opposed to like, oh, this plot is super good, like you should watch this show because the camera work is amazing, and like just like shit like that. Like I don't know, I just don't vibe with it the same way. Like I just love me a show that is nothing but vibes because of like shows that exist now. Like it feels like I was born. I hate when people say they were born in the wrong generation. I think it's like the stupidest shit to say. But for me, for like shows that come out, I feel like I was born in the wrong generation because like think about like 90s, early 2000s shows. 22 episodes per season. There's like 9 seasons, and like plot is sprinkled throughout, and it slowly builds as you watch it. And then you think about like shows now, like take Stranger Things or literally any Netflix show ever, Bridgerton, and it's all like 8 episodes per season, and like there's a whole arc for the each season, and like by the end of each season each arc is completed. Like my favorite shows to like put you where I'm feeling, like Sex in the City, Gilmore Girls, Vampire Diaries. They let them breathe, you know? There's not, except for, Vampire Diaries, like literally so much happens in every single episode. So that might not be like the best example, but you get what I mean. It's at that phase where I like to call it the teenager phase of art, where like you can't really see where we're going, and it looks weird, and there's like no end in sight. Yeah, I call it the teenager phase. It's like the dumb phase in between like when kids glow up during puberty, when they look just like really weird, and you're like, well, I don't know what they're gonna look like, but and I don't really see the vision, but like I'm sure it'll be fine. Hmm. And hopefully it'll be done by today.